I remember there was a time when I was looking at the big picture from business growth. And there was a group that I was part of where I definitely saw trends with some of the companies that are growing at a rapid rate. And it was really about having a team, having team members that let you focus on your strengths so that you can do more of that, and then building that team so that there's other people as part of that operation that can do the things that maybe you're not so good at or that need to get done, but there needs to be that balance.
Hi, and welcome to the 91 Day Success Podcast. I am absolutely thrilled today. As many of just recently, I was down in Miami at an amazing event of a number of literally hundreds of some of the world's best agency owners in the entire world. And while I've known Bref for a while, I had the opportunity to finally meet Bref in person, and we chatted and we said, hey, we got to do this podcast together. So today I've got Bref with me. Bref is with both ClinicGrower and AGT, and we're going to talk today and learn about how he's grown those agencies, what they've done, what they do, and hopefully share some great tidbits and inspiring stories along the way. Bref, while we get started, can you give everybody kind of the 30-second overview? Tell us a little bit about ClinicGrower and AGT and Bref. How did you get started in all this?
Yeah, love it. Jonathan, yeah, great to connect with you. Like you said, it was amazing to meet in person recently, and 30 seconds. Wow, telling us any kind of story in less than 30 seconds is always my challenge. But like from a real high level with who I am and why we're here, the met because we're growing businesses. And as you mentioned, I've got a couple of businesses that myself and Brad, my business partner, are growing, both ClinicGrower and the agency growth team. And from a high level at ClinicGrower, we serve medical aesthetic practices to help them grow successfully and profitably by helping people to look better and feel better. And as agency growth team, actually grew as a subsidiary business, essentially to provide a pipeline of talent for our agency, and other agencies heard about what we were doing. Lo and behold, agency growth team is now basically providing a talent amplification system. So both hiring, recruiting, finding, identifying top talent for other agencies just like ours to help them to save time, make more money, to thrive and grow successfully.
Oh, fantastic. And full disclosure, if you're watching this, part of the reason I'm so excited about talking to Bref is that we work with both Bref and his partner, and they have helped us expand our teams and provided us with just some amazing talent. As we all know, since COVID, it's been really hard to find good talent. And Bref, you guys do an amazing job of helping us source some truly incredible talent. And we're so thankful for that. But
Thank you.
enough about that. Let's jump a little bit into, if I'm not mistaken, ClinicGrower started first, right? And then that grew into, talk to me a little bit about how did you and Brad get started with ClinicGrower? What was the reason to pick that as a niche? And if you would just tell us a little bit about how did that all get started? I know a lot of entrepreneurs, that's one of the things they struggle with. Where do we get started with everything?
For sure. So it's an interesting story, or at least it is for me, hopefully for your listeners. But ClinicGrower started really back in 2017. So it started as Bref, like a lot of people, if you start businesses, learning, working for another company and realizing that I want to grow something myself. I want to make a difference. I don't want to rely on people's products or services. I want to create my own solutions for other companies, for other businesses. And Jonathan, quite honestly, ClinicGrower started as a bit of a research project, reaching out to a niche that I had always needed orthotics for my shoes. So reached out initially to podiatrists, and started connecting with podiatrists who started to refer me to aesthetic centers. And really from doing marketing and advertising for them, what started as research and understanding them grew into providing services for them. And then after about a year, I quit my job that I was working in at that time. And then Brad and I actually collided across a client, my business partner, Brad, across a common client. And then we really took together, combined those forces, the complements, the ability to scale teams together, really enabled us to take ClinicGrower to new levels. So like with growing any business, there was a series of roller coaster rides. There has been all the way through really growing the team and finding stability and having really dialed in growth processes and systems in place. Happy to expand on any of the above or below there as well.
I love it. And again, I'm looking forward to kind of learning more about that and how you got into that. I know one of the things that a lot of people often ask along the way, but it's always one of the interesting parts of the story, is so many of our companies, they're quote unquote overnight successes after many years of hard work. Talk to me about it in that startup phase as you guys were growing the company. What are some of the struggles that you ran into, and how did you overcome them? And one specifically I'm interested in, I love the fact that you started it while you still had a full-time job, which I know so many entrepreneurs do. Talk to me a little bit about that, if you would, as well. How did you decide when was the right time to jump in and give it your all and everything related to that?
Yeah, I love it. I was just telling my client success team actually yesterday a little bit about the story, because we were just emphasizing some of the cornerstones of our business, which is customer service. And we solve that problem for a lot of other businesses, medical practices, for example, by helping them to have just better customer service. So to go back to how we grew the business and how we got started in that respect, it was really down to, at the time, I was working a full-time job. I was working for a large corporation as a sales rep. And during that time when I was looking for business ideas and getting inspired, I was getting into the 4-Hour Work Week from Tim Ferriss. I was getting into a lot of Perry Marshall, kind of old school marketing. This younger guy, Sam Ovens, popped up, who a lot of listeners will know about as well, and started to get into these slipstreams of learning and then taking action. And so while my wife and I were actually traveling, we quit our corporate jobs for a while, I started to tinker around with listening to these educators and going through these courses. And so what I did was I started to experiment, to try Google ads, Twitter ads back then before they got cool again, to go through with Facebook advertising and start to serve some clients when we returned from our trip. And that really, for me, it was about finding a sustainable process. And so it was about experience. It was about learning. It was about taking a gamble. It was about having prospective clients have the trust in you to serve them. And so as I did that and really, went the extra step to make sure that the things that I was doing and the money they were investing was actually generating returns for them. Like, it's always been inherent with me from growing up as a kid in Ireland, and my parents owning a grocery store. And since I was knee high, just being able to see above the counter, it's been about customer service. When you buy something, it's got to do exactly what it says on the tin, as they say. And so it's just really been about that fulfillment, being able to not only say what we're going to do, but to do what we've said. And a lot of times that takes movement, it takes adapting, it takes iterating to make sure that what we're doing, the service that we're delivering for clients, delivers the end result. Is that process? One of the questions you asked as well was, when was the time to decide that now's the time to start the business? And so for me, it was a matter of making sure that I could take care of my family, right? Because at that time, my wife was out of work. So we had our second child just been born. So I was making sure that I was able to make that income and cover our bills and make sure to still put a little bit away for a rainy day. So once I got to that stage, it was a jump ship from the company. To get to that point, it was early mornings. I remember reading a book years ago and this was actually a real tipping point for me. It was a book by Hal Elrod. It was called The Miracle Morning. So for me, that was not only inspirational, but transformative, because a lot of people, like myself anyway, I was like, man, I got all these great ideas and I want to do it, but dang it, I just don't have the time. But when I look back, I was getting up at 7 a.m. and rolling out and having a yawn and taking my time to make a cup of coffee and then get into the office from my employer at a decent time, not always on time, and et cetera, et cetera. So reading that book for me was get your butt up early. I was already able to burn the midnight oil, but it was just to be able to get it done, to execute, to hustle, making that time to do the work that I needed to do. And so when I got to the point where we were making the income, I jumped ship, had a full all day, every day to grow the business. And that's when we started to scale it. And as fate would have it, I had my eyes open peripheral for talent and for partners that could really help the business grow. And that's how Brad and I met. And we've gone on to do a lot of really cool things and continue to do so since then.
One of the things I know it's unique about you is so many of the entrepreneurs we talk to are basically sole practitioners, or I don't want to say that they've got companies, but they're the only one. You've got a partnership. And obviously we've heard lots of horror stories as entrepreneurs about the dangers of partners and all that. If you would, talk to me a little bit from your perspective, somebody who's got an amazing partner in Brad and all that. But I mean, talk to me about that partnership. How has that helped you, do you think, Bref, grow the agency and grow AGT as well?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, 100%. People will ask me a lot about that. And I remember there was a time when I was looking at kind of the big picture from business growth. And there was a group that I was part of where I definitely saw trends with some of the companies that are growing at a rapid rate. And it was really about having a team, having team members that let you focus on your strengths so that you can do more of that, and then building that team so that there's other people as part of that operation that can do the things that maybe you're not so good at, or that that need to get done, but there needs to be that balance. And luck of the Irish, maybe that could be like an easy answer here as how it's worked out with myself and Brad. It came down to both of us, like both experienced guys in a lot of respects. We both worked in corporate. We both had incredible backgrounds. Most importantly, I think, Jonathan, for us and for me, and I would say Brad too, is when we spoke to each other, we shared the same values. We both have families. We've been around long enough that we know that there's different content out there and there's different mediums and different people selling you different stories. But for us, it was always just making sure that we were on the same page while growing a business, that we knew who we were, what we wanted to do. And I think that's really important with any business and in life in general. And we created infrastructure where we both gave ourselves that pilot period to make sure that operating together was going to be a success, and rapidly saw that we were enjoying it and the business was growing together, and it really started to take off and continued to move along really enjoyably and fluidly and profitably since then.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, I know a little bit, obviously, I know more about AGT because that's the company we've worked with, but I know for Clinic Grower, one of the things you do that I think is quite unique in the digital agency space is that you guys also provide coaching. Can you tell me a little bit about the coaching that you provide to your clients and how that fits in with the digital marketing programs that you guys are offering?
Yeah, for sure. So that certainly has been a really important part of what we do for our clients over the years. I think when most businesses today, right, and it's 2023 right now, when they get introduced to a company that has the word marketing associated with it, there's all these commoditization, there's a lot of perceptions. We certainly hear that a lot from clients before they work with us when we're speaking with them. And what we've been doing for the last 5 years is really making that coaching, that support part of what we do, really forefront as part of our service offering. Because with ClinicGrower is a great example, with any of the medical aesthetic practices that we work with, the business owner in a lot of times is going to be either that doctor. In a lot of cases, they're going to be working with patients, and they don't necessarily always know really what's going on with the team. They rely on specific team members who may or may not have agendas and things like that, depending what the makeup of the team is like, to grow their business. And so the coaching component of what we do to be able to create a system where there's great communication with the business owner, the doctor, but also getting the team, that medical practice team on board, on site, excited, and giving them their own support system to thrive and really feel empowered, and to create systems from not only coaching, but also from an infrastructure standpoint, like a performance-driven unit and performance-driven team to really help that business grow. Because what we found early in the business was that we were able to generate leads for practices. I remember when we first started, it was, hey, we would use Scipio for texting, and we would combine all these tools together, and then GHL came in, and that was amazing. But still, the challenge could be that, hey, here's a bunch of leads, go get them. And when our medical practices are dealing with patients, that lead, that person who's reaching out for some type of help or transformation is crucial. And so we need to make sure there's a system in place to not only connect with that patient, follow up with them and connect with them, but also a way to do that. So that's a big part of the coaching that we provide as well, is really tied in a lot to customer service, and kind of going back to our roots, which is making sure that when the practices, the team, maybe our front desk team, are connecting with patients, that there's energy, there's rapport, there's that ability to connect with the patient. And even in our AGT program, that's essentially a big part of what we do for the talent that we connect our companies with, our partners with, is to make sure that that's there as well. There's an understanding of what's important. As I was saying to my team yesterday, customers are the lifeblood of every business. And so the coaching that we've been doing with our medical aesthetic practices is really designed to increase the profits of the practice by connecting them with more patients, and then coaching the combined teams in order to do that, and rinse and repeat.
I love that. And I love how you guys have identified that often it's not just getting those opportunities into the business or into your client, but it's then helping that client and their team convert those by handling it the right way, responding the right way. And so often, I know we found, and I'm sure you have as well, while the staff has the best intentions, they simply sometimes don't have the training to know how to respond appropriately. And those responses can make the difference between some of those leads turning into opportunities and deals and lots of them turning into deals. So it really can make just a huge difference for your client.
For sure.
So one of the things I noticed that I'm really curious about, that I'm got to admit, I'm like totally impressed by it. So you guys have got notes about all the various spots that you've been featured over time, like Fox News and NBC and CBS and Miami Herald and ABC and a gazillion others. I'm just hitting some of the top ones. I know one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs are always trying to do is figure out how do they set up those trusted lighthouses, those entities that people look at and go, wow, if you guys are on all these news channels, you've got to know what you're doing. How did you guys manage to get mentioned by stories in whatever happened there? But how did you manage to pull that in so that you had the opportunity to be able to say, hey, we're credible, and here's an example of a bunch of household publications you're familiar with? How did you pull that off?
Yeah, so love that question. So I remember, and I don't know if this one's on the website, it's a while ago, but one of the first things I did during that research phase of getting an idea into a business and things like that, I'll be honest, today, if I would have done it much quicker what I did back then, but it was like really slow and overthinking and stuff like that. So one of the first things I did, Jonathan, was I did a research piece for a medical publication. And so that was relationship. It took me like way too long to create that publication and created it. And then they publicized it, which enabled me to have that relationship and to get coverage with that medical media outlet. And then due to my background within traditional media, so I used to work within television for different corporations and for different broadcasting companies. I had relationships that enabled me to connect with those companies. I fostered them and had to come up with some good content, right, in order to make it relevant to the publication, the articles they'll be publishing. And so that was a big part of it as well. And then creating a system in order to get those press releases out there and to nurture them. And that's something that we had a focal period of doing years ago, was doing that, which enabled us to get that type of coverage, to get that exposure. And we've also been fortunate over the years as we've been growing the business and creating, again, just doing a good job by our customers in getting referrals and then having associations and different groups within those medical professions to not only to feature us, but also to interview us and then connect us to their communities as well. So that's some of the things that you'll probably see on the website there.
I love it. And kudos to you guys for just doing an amazing job of pulling that in. It does add just a tremendous amount of credibility to what you're doing. And I love that you're following the same things that you do for your clients. You and I, again, having just recently been in Miami, one of the speakers talked about it's important as agencies that we drink our own Kool-Aid. And a lot of times agencies don't. They don't market themselves in the same way that they market their customers. I know we've even struggled with that. Sometimes it's hard when you've got paying customers that are paying you to do their marketing and you don't necessarily have the time to do yours. Obviously, we take care of those paying clients first. Talk to me as an agency here, and I think this applies to really any business across the board. How have you made sure that your team not only does a great job for your customers, but also does and provides those same services and that same expertise to growing your own company? How have you managed that? Because I know there's a phrase, the cobbler's children need new shoes. And I think that's a very common thing that entrepreneurs struggle with. How have you managed that?
It's a great question because it is a very common challenge, and the cobbler's shoes rings a bell for sure, because with growing our business, and for anybody listening as well, you've got your customer that has a very specific avatar and very specific type of product that you're delivering and service you're delivering to them. So marketing to them is essential because it's about, they're the lifeblood of your business and you care about them and you want to deliver on your service. And so I think that's more of I won't say it's more important to business owners when they start out, but for us, that was just essential. It's boom, we're taking care of customers. And then it's, hey, how about a little bit of self-care over here as well? So with that, and it's been a challenge for us over the years. There's been times where we've drifted focus, but it does take that application. And it takes also creating that, and going through that exercise for us, which was understanding our avatar, really getting specific with our customers, because over the years, we used to serve kind of a broad medical niche that we really saw like where we're making most impact. And as we narrowed that, it became much clearer as to what we needed to do from our own agency growth marketing or B2B marketing. We call it our agency growth marketing. And so with that, what we've consistently been doing is a lot of my background is direct response. And when I got started, it was really a lot of paid advertising. So we will create our own content, we put it on Facebook, and we just need to, over the years, we had to create a similar process, making sure that we've got fulfillment for our clients, but also now fulfillment for our own agency growth marketing as well. And you mentioned the events in Miami that were out, which was tremendous. And I actually got inspired from speaking with you. So it's only recently that at ClinicGrower, we've launched our own podcast, the Aesthetics Growth Show, excuse me. And I'll actually be swinging back with you pretty shortly because we're going to be launching our agency growth team podcast soon. So there's always something to get accomplished, Jonathan. Like there's, one of the guys at the event spoke about stacking, right? About when you're doing your Facebook ads, don't stop doing the Google ads or the SEO, stack it. When you do the podcast, and don't forget about the Facebook ads. So that's what we're in the process of doing right now. I think that's really important, is to find out where your quickest wins are and go get them, right? Go get those quick wins and don't stop getting them. And then build on that next level. With a podcast, it's something that I really enjoy, connecting and speaking. But from the business standpoint as well, as we know, there's that element of educating the marketplace and becoming a thought leader and someone who builds authority and can connect with those businesses that we connect with as well.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. It's a great share and super information. Let's move to AGT. I think like many entrepreneurs, I'm guessing, you didn't have just one business idea. You've had many, and you've turned, obviously, AGT into another great agency. Talk to me a little bit about what was the inspiration behind starting a second company, and talk to us a little bit about, again, how that process came into being.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. There's so many ideas that we have as entrepreneurs. And I think the list of ideas that we've had over the years, we could create like a pretty thick book out of just listing them out.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely a matter of, and for us it was, okay, what's going to make sense? It doesn't make sense, and figuring out if or when. So with AGT, it started off as a conversation, an idea, like both I had it, I'm sure Brad had it independently. And we spoke about it and we looked at what we're really good at and what people are asking us about. Hey, how are you guys doing this? How are you guys doing that? We've always had some real core strengths in customer service, in client success. And again, I think it just comes back to our DNA. So Agency Growth Team essentially started as kind of a need for us at ClinicGrower for hiring really good talent, really good customer service team members, client success managers. There could be different names of that: account managers, client success managers, customer service concierges. So with us, it was about making sure that we had a talent pool for that. And then we had friends that were asking, what does your CSMs do? What do your client success managers do? What do your account managers do? We would share, we would give. And over the years, we created a lot of systems and processes around that. And that was a very important part of our business, because when we started, I was the customer service manager, like a lot of companies, dealing with the clients all day. And then Brad was the client success manager, and we needed to keep doing different things with our business. So we trained, we took a lot of time to train these team members to create systems for them to succeed. And then other colleagues of ours in different groups, in different space, and just from hopping on Zoom calls and speaking with them and for delivering value, asked us more about what we're doing and would we mind helping them with that. And so we did. We had almost an initial batch of friends and family, if you will, that we started helping them to identify, or really doing it for them. We're identifying talent based off criteria that we already had, but then listening to them as far as, what do you need? What are you looking for to grow your business? What would free you up more? What would be that key team member, that key talent with your company that would help to free you up more so that you can have more impact, so that you can save time, you can make more money? And as we did that, and as we started to identify and to train and recruit and place these team members for some of our colleagues, then we started to get more referrals, and we've started to build out systems around that. And we started to grow our own team within Agency Growth Team so that we can continue to serve more agencies that are really looking to take their business to the next level. We see a profile where these are agencies that they've got a really great product in place. They've probably hired a team member or a VA, or they've got some initial semblance of a team there, but maybe they're banging their head and they're frustrated. And we could talk a lot about different ways in which to build a team, different needs that people have. But for us, that's how it came about. It was really about what we've been strong at, that customer service, what we needed to do, which was to grow our client success team so that Brad and I could grow other parts of the company. And then from there, other people heard about it. And it's grown to the point now where it's a successful 6-figure company by itself, heading towards 7, that we've just been growing organically just through referrals, just from people telling people. And we're going to look to carefully grow that next year by maintaining an excellent product, but keep growing that service by keep delivering an excellent product for customers such as yourself.
No, and it has been a fantastic experience working with you and your team there. It's been truly, nothing has been negative about the experience at all. And like I said, we've been thrilled because you've helped us locate some of this amazing talent that is hard to find. And it's been so beneficial in there. So, Bref, one of the questions that I know a lot of entrepreneurs have is, as a successful entrepreneur and business owner, one now managing 2 businesses, what advice do you have for someone that's maybe been in business for a couple of years, got a small team looking to grow, and they just never seem to be able to get out of that rut of working in the business as opposed to working on the business? What advice would you have for somebody in that role of the things they might want to consider to get out of that rut and can start growing their company?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's something that we all have to do continuously. And so almost in no particular order, but it comes down to, number one, understanding having a clear vision and a mission and know what you're shooting towards. Because when you have that, then it becomes easier to start to say no to things. And I think is important too. So as part of my routine, if you will, I think for anybody looking to grow their business, is having a look at every day and every week, and then starting to remove things like, hey, it's like I have a could do and must do list on a weekly, monthly basis. And so the could do are going to be nice when we get to them, but the must do's are crucial. And so just separating that, and to get more into that time blocking to make sure that there's appropriate time to work on projects and initiatives. And then as you get through that, there becomes, the client success is a classic example. You can do that to the nth degree, but if you've got 20 or 30 clients, then you're just moving things around because you've still got to talk to those clients and communicate and take care of them unless you have somebody else to do that. So growing the team becomes important, and that's something that's been fun for us. And I think for a lot of business owners, it's you either want to do it or you're curious about it and not quite sure, but you realize that when you do it, that it sets you free. And so it's either you grow the team or you stay in that version of freelancer, which for some people is great. So some people want to do different things. And so going back to that advice, I think you just got to look at where you are and where you want to go, that vision, and then really start to understand, what do you need to do to get there? Like, what obstacles do you have to remove? What levers can you pull? What leverage can you get? And a lot of the time, especially for a service-based companies, is that leverage is going to be hiring, having team members, training team members to come in so that you can have them as part of your team, as part of your mission. You can celebrate the wins, you can cry over the losses, but you can move forward together as a team. And I know, I get passionate talking about it because on our all hands Monday calls, for example, we've got our team there. Everybody's there on Zoom, and it's so fulfilling to see everybody and to get to know people from not only in the US, but we have a global team, and to be able to do that, to drive the mission forward with them, to celebrate the wins with them, and to have the occasional little tear or a little complaint when something crazy is going on in the background. But my advice there would be, again, to boil it down to anybody who's listening, is to just get a real clear understanding of where you are, where you want to go, remove those obstacles, and find that leverage.
Great advice. And one of the things you said in there that I know has been really helpful to me has been doing some time blocking on your calendar, making sure, for example, it's so easy as an entrepreneur and a business owner to get distracted with things that are urgent, or I say more urgent than important often. And I think that time blocking has really done wonders to make sure that every day I've got a certain amount of time set out, in my case, for example, for outbound sales. If I don't do that, that doesn't happen, and then it doesn't work. And then a month or two down the road, you realize that, wow, my pipeline's not looking so great anymore because I've not been focused on that. And I know that's made a huge difference. And I love your, again, prioritizing, taking a look at what's important, making sure you make time to do those things and make those happen. Critically important. One of the things that I love to ask Bref, and this becomes inspired, I don't know if you're familiar with Russell Brunson or not, but he owns ClickFunnels, and he wrote a book called, let me read the title here, you suddenly lose everything and you have 30 days. And he went out and he picked some of his most successful ClickFunnels clients to answer that. And I thought it was a great book. But one of the things that I did find a little off about it is 30 days really isn't very long to actually launch a business and start making money. It's possible, but it's pretty hard if you're really starting cold from 30 days. So I thought a better question would be, what happened if you took 3 months or 91 days? And I'm curious, if I challenged you with that, Bref, and I said, hey, you lose all your clients, you lose everything. You've got a house, you've got food, you've got a car, your life is taken care of, but you need to build a business and you've got $1,000 to do it. Bref, what things would you do in the first 3 months to build a business?
Yeah.
Any advice, any thoughts? I love hearing what other successful entrepreneurs might be willing to do or think they should be doing if they had, again, 90 days.
Love it. This is such a great question and such great different answers I'm sure that you hear every single time as well. And
Absolutely.
So over the course, we got 3 months, so everything's taken care of, which is good. Got the food, the water, the shelter. For me, what I would do from a big picture, and I'll boil it down on that, I think the monthly and the weekly and the daily is overall, it's hustle. You got to hustle hard to make anything happen. I kind of I beat by the drum of nothing is guaranteed, but everything is possible. And during those 3 months, first of all, this is the Bref now who's married with a couple of kids, and it's going to be a different answer than if it was maybe the 22-year-old Bref. But I would actually do something today that I probably wouldn't have done when I was 22 years old. I would, first of all, I'd take a breath. I'd sit down. I would take a day, that day one, to map out like a plan, to really get clear on what I needed to do during those 91 days to get to a situation where I've got to be able to pay the bills, take care of my family, get a business off the ground, really get some momentum going. And the event that we were at in Miami, for example, really crystallized a concept, that Dream 100. And for me, over the course of those 91 days, I would keep that list a little shorter. I would have it a Dream 90. I would get like really super specific on the customers that I'm looking to serve, those quick wins, those ideal clients that I can connect with. And I would put together that target list, get really specific on that. And then from the actual tactically how we're going to grow the business from there, it's, of course, understanding what's that service delivery going to be like. So you've got obviously the day one is you've got to have your product, you've got to have your price, map that out, the kind of promotional plan, which the Dream 100 is part of, the people aspect, that's going to be me. And then I would also look at stacking some tools, right? If we got $1,000, I would look at, because we've got to move pretty quick in those 90 days, looking at some automation on LinkedIn and some email to start to help to manage those communications. Let's start looking at some AI. I know that you're the right person to talk to about how AI can help businesses as well. So I would start looking at those, and whether it's Woodpecker or linked prospect maximizer that we use, creating that communication cadence to those prospects, getting them into conversations. And during those first 90 days, I would actually be willing to offer a lot of value. When you're starting out a business, there's an element to proving yourself. You haven't got the systems, you might not have the team in place. So what can I do for you? Hey, Mr. Jones, like I see that this is your business and this type of customer you're looking to connect with. I'd like to help you do more of that. Would that be helpful? And to really get in and show value, first of all, to prove out and to get those initial customers on board so that I can start helping them to grow their business. That would really be a large part of it. I think it would be possible to carve out a little bit of time every day to interview people as well. So as I've been doing my own podcast thing, and I'm sure you find it too, is such a great way to connect with people a little bit differently, is to actually just interview them, to speak to them about their experience. And so during those 90 days, let's think big picture as well. Let's think about, past that, what are these 90 days going to be doing? We're building authority. We're creating content for this marketplace. We're going to make sure that this is something that lasts beyond 91 days. So I would certainly get into doing some interviews, creating that podcast content, and also just back to my local sales rep days working for a TV station. I'd be either jumping in a car or getting on a bike. I'd be connecting with some people locally too, because you can build a lot of trust when you shake hands with people in person, especially in a world where digital communications, it dominates, but there's, I think, more skepticism because people get, again, through digital, a lot of people get told about things like, I'm going to do this. But as we hear from other people, right, horror stories, they said they were going to do this, but they didn't. In fact, they did that. So for me, I think connecting with some local clients and businesses, and then being able to leverage those types of testimonials and case studies as we got through those 30 and 60 days. And again, just hustling hard, keeping that Excel spreadsheet or that GHL pipeline to manage everything and keeping the eyes on the prize.
Yeah, it reminds me very much of what gets managed gets done as I hear you talk through that. And then it's so good. Great advice, Bref. I so appreciate that. I know a lot of the people that are our audience that's listening, maybe listening in the car while they're driving, things like that. Bref, if they're intrigued by either what you're doing at Clinic Grower or at Agency Growth Team and they want to reach out, we'll obviously put your links here, but what's the best way for them to reach out and learn more about what you guys do and how you might be able to help them?
Yeah, thanks for asking. You can connect with me, Bref McHugh. There's not too many of us around, BREF, at Bref McHugh on social media, and also ClinicGrower.com and agencygrowthteam.com.
Excellent. Again, we'll put those links in. We'll make sure that those are set up and everything else and make sure we do it. Bref, again, thank you so much. It was so great to meet you a couple of weeks ago. I am thrilled to have the chance to interview you here and just looking forward to continuing to deepening that relationship that we're building. Thank you so much for your time. I'm truly grateful.
Jonathan, absolute pleasure. Anytime. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. And thank you, our audience, for tuning in and listening. And we so appreciate your feedback. We love hearing what you think of the episodes, our guests, and we're really grateful that you decided to join us and spend some time with us today. With that, make it a great day, and we'll see you on the other side. Awesome. Bref, thank you. You're a natural at this. That was so easy.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you. I was actually going to see if you could do me a favor. Can I ask you a question? And this might, if you wanted to include it, then
sure, absolutely. Go. We're still recording, so go ahead.
Cool. I'd love to ask you. It goes back to that everything that you discussed there with growing the business. But for anyone who's looking to get that business off the ground in that first 91 days, what would you recommend that they use from a technology and maybe even an AI standpoint to help them to move quicker?
It's a good question. And I think when it comes to limited budgets and time, a couple of things I would do. I would immediately spend the $20 a month for the subscription to ChatGPT Plus. I think it's so well worth it. And there's so many things that you can use that to help out with. Just today alone, literally since this morning, I've used it to finish writing a book for a client. We spent about 8 hours and we just wrote what'll be almost a 200-page Kindle book that they need to use to create credibility for their audience. That didn't cost me any money other than the $20 a month that I spent. And admittedly, some prompting. Most of that time was, setting up the outline, having AI do some research, then having it expand on that, and then have it proofread it and go through. So there's some time in spent. But again, if I've got a limited budget and I'm getting started, I know, and I think you know as well, one of the things you can do to establish credibility so quickly is to put out a book for your industry. And this is a great way to do it. You can put it on Kindle. You don't need to print it. And literally you can have that published within a week or two. And again, for very little cost. Other things I've done today, I've written multiple standard operating procedures as I work with my team. Obviously, we need to make sure that things are in order. I'm really good at giving an outline of what needs to be done, but I am terrible at putting it into a format that everybody can follow and that makes sense. And I always leave off details because I make assumptions. Of course, everybody knows in order to upload a YouTube video, you've got to go to youtube.com. I never think of those things. And the tools, whether it's ChatGPT, Google Bard, Claude 2, any of them, those do such an amazing job of helping do that. And again, I can now write an SOP in a few minutes because I can say, the one I did today was how to proofread a book, an ebook that we'd written, and I needed some help from my team to proofread it. I just said, I need a guide, and you need to tell me how to I need you to write a standard operating procedure, how to edit an ebook. Here's 5 things that I'm really concerned about, and then add in other things that should be there. And it gave me about a 1.5 page SOP, lots of good detail. And I was able to hand that off to my assistant, and she was able to read that and then go, oh, okay, I know exactly what you want. And literally within 2 hours, she had everything back to me because it was easy. And that's so much better than the back and forth and the back and forth. And as a visionary AD guy, that's me, that tends to be what happens because I give them what I feel at the moment they need, but it's definitely missing. And so I find it hugely helpful from that. Apart from that, we know it's great for marketing inspiration. I need to write, in fact, I'm working on it right now, a drip campaign for a follow-up with some new prospects. We have a new lead funnel that we launched yesterday. It helped me write the content for the lead funnel. It helped me write the video script that's on that landing page. I'm now using it to help me write the follow-up sequence of text and emails and blind voicemails. We use Go High Level. I think you guys do as well. And
Yep.
it's a great marketing automation system that lets us put all of that together so that I don't have to be following up with the 12 people that answered my lead magnet yesterday every single day. I don't have to remember, okay, it's Thursday. What do I do today? No, the system takes care of that. And while my calls are part of that, it prompts me in the morning by sending me an email and says, hey, you need to call Bref today because 7 days ago, he downloaded the lead magnet. He's not responded. He's not done anything in the system. It's time for a personal phone call. I get reminded of all that. So those are just some of the ways I would be utilizing AI right now that are very inexpensive and very easy to do. But again, making me much more efficient as a business owner and as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Wow. 100%. There's ton of value right there. Everything from what you just said is basically almost like full business right there, from the lead generation, the nurture sequences, the operations with the standard operating procedures. I mean, if you were going to, you're talking about 40, 50 plus hours just in some of the stuff that you mentioned, right? More when it comes to that ebook, that's just incredible. There's hundreds of hours right there. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, we did a book last year before all the AI tools came out. And we had help because we got help from our coach at Seven Figure Agency, and he actually gave us a template to get started with. Even with that, I estimated I put somewhere between 100 and 120 hours into getting that book ready to go. And it's okay, but it's not as good as what I wrote today in 8 hours.
Wow.
It really isn't. And it's just amazing. Again, it's about leveraging. You talked earlier about amplifying, and it's about amplifying your time as that entrepreneur, as that business owner. How many times have we said, wow, what I really need is I need to clone myself. I need more time. And AI is not a clone, but I would challenge any business owner or entrepreneur that with just literally a bit of knowledge, you could absolutely buy yourself an hour or two of extra time a day or accomplish an hour or two of additional work compared to what you were previously accomplishing. And that is rewarding. There's nothing like getting home at night and having your wife go, hey, how was your day? And I can actually check off things I got done versus things I wanted to do that I didn't get around to because business happened, life happened, and things got busy.
That's beautiful. That one thing as well, because we all have our to-do lists, and certainly over the years, for me, the to-do list was maybe, let's say, overambitious. We're all like highly driven, but the list wasn't always getting done. And absolutely, with using just some of the tips and tools that you've shared with me and some people I know, those lists are getting done, and now those lists are getting longer because we can accomplish a whole lot more. We know that as business owners, as entrepreneurs, that momentum is what it's all about. It's like getting it done. So I'm going to be maybe selfish here, but if there's anyone listening, if you put this out, how could they find out more about how to do that for their business?
I certainly appreciate that. And yeah, if you're interested in that, probably the best thing I can do is recommend you join the Facebook group that I run about AI prompts for entrepreneurs. It's not just about marketing stuff. It's about all the things that Bref and I have just been talking about, how you can easily find an extra 60 minutes a day. And you can go to my website on that, and we'll put that up on the video. It's just whitebeardstrategies.com/AI group. And it'll bring you right to the Facebook group. It is a private group. You've got to apply. I let everybody in, but I don't want to, I need the ability to get rid of people too. Yeah. So that's why it's a private group. One of our key things there, Bref, I think we don't promote, we don't sell anything in that group. It's all about knowledge sharing, education. As of this morning, there's nearly 2,300 people in that group. We'd love to have anybody join that's interested, and it's a great way to learn. As simple as that.
That's awesome. No, it's been like I said, super grateful that you guys did that group. It popped up at the right time and the right place for me as we've been using AI to grow our business. So yeah, thanks again for doing that, John. And thanks for the podcast. This has been amazing.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things I love to ask Bref, from your perspective, as we went through the questions, anything that struck out to you as we were interviewing you and talking that you went, wow, that's really good. I need to make sure we get that shared. Is there anything you want to make sure that our team takes a special look at it and make sure that we pull out as a short? Because we're going to go through this, repurpose all this content. Gotcha. By the way, you'll get a copy of all that. But is there anything that stuck out to you and said, wow, that would be really cool?
So possibly when you were asking about AGT and just growing the business, that kind of leverage component, as I was saying that, I was like, that might be cool to share. So that was the one thing that just sprung to mind when you asked that question.
Oh, no, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And the last request I've got is an entirely selfish one, and I want to give you 100% permission to say no. It won't hurt my feelings in the least. But obviously, as you're building a podcast, you can probably relate. I reach out to a lot of people and ask them to be on my podcast. And while we've got a pretty good audience, a lot of them that I reach out to have never heard of me. They've never heard of the 91 Day Podcast. They don't know anything about what I do. And so they're always, should I or shouldn't I? From your perspective, would you be willing to take 20, 30 seconds and describe how either easy or difficult this was, and whether you'd recommend somebody that maybe doesn't know who I am? Is it worth their time, that 30 to 60 minutes? Is it worth that much time out of their day?
Absolutely, 100%. So for me personally, being on the 91 Day Podcast has been not only a pleasure, but to be able to link up with an expert like yourself, Jonathan, to share experience, which I know is helpful for people growing their business, and also that conversation just going over and back. I know for me personally, there's learning, there's ideas, there's initiatives that are involved in it, but also just the value of being on the podcast and getting connected with your audience. Again, absolutely incredible to be here. The experience of sharing has been tremendous, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who, if you get an invite from Jonathan Mast to be on his podcast, there's absolutely, it's a no-brainer to do it. Jonathan's audience is incredible. I know from knowing Jonathan, from meeting him, that he's surrounded by some of the most influential and solid growth-minded business owners in the world. So if Jonathan, if you're advising your teams, like anybody to be in the podcast, they absolutely must do it. It's going to be amazing for them as an experience, and it's going to deliver a ton of value to your listeners, the people that person, the interviewee is going to be speaking with.
Bref, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much that means to me. I really do appreciate that. And again, it's just, that's awesome. If I can ever return the favor, if I can ever help you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. Let me know, whether that's through AI stuff or other. Please let me be a resource. And again, on another note, thank you so much for what you guys have done through AGT. We've just got some amazing team members that we've brought on board because of that. So it's been amazing.
Absolute pleasure, 100%, anytime. And I definitely will swing back to have you on the agency growth. Not sure if it's going to be the agency growth show or the agency growth team, but that's today I committed to doing it because I'm having a lot of fun just doing the aesthetics growth podcast. And
absolutely,
I'll certainly swing back with the AGT as well. And equally,
love it.
We're connected, man. If there's anything I can do to help you, even if it's a recut on that kind of that last piece, or
great.
A testimonial, or anything you want, man. Like, you guys are rocking it, doing it the right way. You got a great team there as well. So just great to connect and be connected.
Well, and I remember you and Brad had asked me for a testimonial that I forgot all about right now. So I will record one of those for you guys and get that sent over as well, because you guys certainly deserve it.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, that's always, you know how it is. It's always helpful to be, for people considering, especially in digital, they're considering a product or a service, to hear from somebody else who's used that product or service is always super helpful. So equally, man, if there's ever anything I can do for you, just say the word. For the team as well, remember, we're talking, if there's anybody that might benefit from coming back in for a training or whatnot, just reach out, light us up, and I'll chat with you again soon, okay?
Sounds good, Bref. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day.
Thanks, Jonathan. You too. Thanks, Mike.